Hello everyone, welcome back to a new episode in our series of perfect chess games. Now I don't know if it's a perfect chess game, but it's a game of chess played at the highest level. It happened 2 days before, in between number one, Magnus Carlsen, and Hikaru Nakamura, one of the most powerful grandmasters on the planet at the minute. So, two monsters of chess. Now, they played a game of chess which is absolutely superb. So, I'll try give it some time. I'll try communicate as many ideas as possible so we can understand the subtleties and integrate them probably in our own practical game and, getting a bit better. That's the whole style. We just want to improve together and grow together. So, let's do this game, my chess friends. And I know it's been a long time, but life always gets in the way. So, let's just do this now. Okay, we start with an English opening, which will be transposing into a Queen's Gambit. So, we go with the c4, knight f6, knight f3. Okay, theoretical e6 and knight c3. There's nothing surprising here. d5 challenging already the c4, so you sort of need to take a decision what kind of opening you want to play here. You could take on d5, you could play e3, or you could play d4 as Magnus played. So, Queen's Gambit. So let's see now what do we do. So black now took the pawn. Again, a theoretical approach, nothing wrong whatsoever. But, boys and girls, the idea of black taken on c4, actually it is a direct encouragement for white to play a move like e4 because d5 is no longer there. So that's one important aspect for you, my chess friends, to keep in mind. If black were to accept, you have the opportunity to push e4. Practically, getting the center is always very important and useful in chess now. And that's what Magnus played. e4, getting all those squares for himself, So you're taking space, you're taking territory, you've got more options. That's the whole idea. Now, Nakamura played something which the engines don't necessarily favor this choice with b5. Not the fundamentally disastrous choice here. I'm pretty sure Nakamura knows very well what he does, definitely. He's a super GM after all. And probably it's something to do with activating this bishop, which is a very unhappy bishop here, because e6 does not allow the bishop to come out and make an pin or this sort of things. You sort of are tempted to push the b pawn. You need to make some space for this guy to come into the game and actually attack something. So probably b5, making a bit of space for the bishop, and perhaps at some point you're posing some threats about this guy here. Maybe you're gonna push forwards, but it is white's turn, and now you got a very interesting choice. You may take on b5 if you wish so, not a problem, but also e4 is hanging. So by taking on b5, you're actually losing on e4. So you gotta be aware of this. Therefore, Magnus chose to play e5 first, attacking the knight, making them move. You attacking with tempo. Okay, so now the black knight must play somewhere, and he chose to play on d5 here, Nakamura, and Carlsen took on b5. He's got a pawn up to itself, one full pawn here, so that matters a lot. That matters very, very, very much. If you manage to hold the advantage, it might be the ticket to your victory. Sometimes in chess, every pawn matters absolutely. Forwards now, my dearest chess friends. Knight b6. Obviously, all of these are good moves that I've highlighted here, guys. You may just develop bishop to e3. You may attack the queen here. Not a problem. Obviously, they can't play f6. They're going to have to sort of block with the bishop on, I don't know, maybe they want to move the queen up. We don't know. But these are possibilities. And again, nothing wrong with bishop to e2. preparing a possible castle king side for white. So I'm giving you as many ideas as I can. I can't spend here 1 hour talking about every single possibility for white or black because we're not going to finish anytime soon. And guys, probably I'm going to lose you at some point. So just try to march on forwards. Okay, so a3 is the move that Carlsen chose to play. Now, a3 practically takes from the dark square bishop all those squares. I mean, a3 means that they can't get the bishop active anywhere. You see, if white would have played knight to c3, you could expect that this guy comes and make a pin, right? But as soon as you play now a3, this guy on f8 now can't move anywhere, can't attack really nothing at the minute, unless at some point black chooses to play a move like c5, which is a very recommendable approach here because, you know, you're challenging the center and it looks very good for this bishop in case white chooses to take, but I'm not quite sure we're going to get there. So, knight to c6, more power on the d4 pawn, so which is being attacked now twice. As soon as you move this guy, you're only having 2 defenders on that particular pawn. Bishop to e3 now, Magnus develops. Always very important, boys and girls. Develop all your minor pieces of the back rank as quickly as you can. You need all your pieces active and attacking. The sooner, the better. Don't delay, it might be too late. So, queen to d7 now, that's what he chose to play. And we need to be aware that the queen might be having a discovered attack if this guy, the knight, were to be playing somewhere at some point. So we need to just be aware of that one. So knight to c3, probably, amongst other things, knight to c3 clears out the problem now. So there is no issue with the queen on that diagonal. Bishop to b7, we said that this bishop needs to do something, and it looks quite promising if you get a bishop on b7. Nothing wrong. The game is to be played. Queen on c2, and that's already, guys, when the queen is being played here, you need to see it in perspective, and it looks very interesting. I mean, just look at these possibilities. If black is kind of planning to, you know, castle on the king side, you need to be really aware that it could be an incredibly powerful, deadly attack on the king side. So these are all subtleties that will make the difference in between winning or losing the game. So all these ideas have to be very clear in our minds, as many as possible. So, knight to a5. Now, Nakamura itself criticized this choice of his with knight on a5, which doesn't look necessarily very bad because, you know, you're thinking, look, my knight on a5 will just jump on b3. I mean, it can't be that bad, you know. Anyway, he said that actually this guy should be going on e7 and then jumping on f5, and that would be a much better square than the square on a5, which he actually played on. So that's what Nakamura thought, that actually the knight should have been played on e7, and the engine actually agrees with his thought, with his afterthought as well. Knight at a5, so that was what happened in the actual game, guys. Rook over on the d file. Never a bad idea to put the rook where the queen is. You never know. Maybe this pawn goes forwards. Maybe there will be trading pawns. Always a good idea to get the rooks on the open or semi-open files. Keep this in mind, my chess friends. Rook to b8, so I'm going to march on now. Bishop on e2, sort of announcing, hey, I might castle. Never know, or maybe not. Bishop to e7. So, again, nothing wrong with doing moves like knight d2, more attacker on c4, nothing wrong with castling the king on the king side, you know. It's perfectly playable here, just to illustrate this. But Carlsen really wants to play the attacking card here. So he goes with, oopsie daisy, what did I do? I just jumped too far. My apologies, guys. Let me just get there. Where were we with the analysis? Let me just... Oh, I think I went a bit too forwards. I pressed the wrong button. Pressed the wrong button. Okay, that's fine. So, Magnus goes with h4, actually. And that's quite something to think about, because this pawn on h4 actually wants to go to h5 and naturally wants to go to h6. So in case black is thinking about castling, this is something to really mull over, because It's really challenging, so they've got to be very careful. So bishop to c6, and probably you notice now that there is a battery here. Bishop c6, queen to d7, and this particular square. So there's something white needs to be aware because they've got a queen and a rook. Now, fortunately, there is a knight on c3. So if there's any bishop, you just remove the bishop with the knight and you keep on playing without fearing any bishop that might be troubling the positioning of queen and the rook on the same diagonal. So now knight takes, queen captures. Now, in principle, you don't want to make a trade unless you have a very good reason to do so. And now, by taking on a4, really not very advisable, even if you just consider knight will take back. And then you've got the rook and the knight attacking on b2. That doesn't look very promising. So then again, always think about, is it really necessary for me to take the other guy's queen or the other guy's piece? Always think about these ideas. They matter a lot in the whole economy of the game, in the greater economy. So now Magnus said, look, I'm going to get the rook on c1, and if he takes, I'm going to take with the rook. My rook will invariably defend on b2, and I double attack on c4. Looks very, very good. Now, Nakamura didn't take. He got the knight where he wanted, probably in the very first time when he got the knight on a5. He actually wants to move the knight on b3. You know, it looks a little bit scary, but Carlsen will deal with that very nicely. So rook to b1, you don't want to give the rook away, obviously. Now, probably there were better moves here to play rather than queen to a5. You could just attempt, for instance, to stop the advancement of the pawn. But hey, easier said than done. And when you're playing live, it's a big chance you're going to do some, dubious moves every now and then. So check now, and king moves away. Very interestingly, he didn't want to trade stuff, he didn't want to play the bishop, he didn't want to play the knight, he simply moved the king over to f1. It is absolutely clear now that white will not castle, and actually he will use all of his efforts and energies to actually pushing this guy, dismantling the pawn structure in front of the black king, and marching on to victory. Impressive, super impressive game for these two super GM's monsters of chess. c5 now. Again, it's the stuff you want to play, especially when you're having the bishop here. You just want to do this. That's exactly what he played. Carlsen pushes h6, guys. And now Nakamura just, you can't take here. You can't take on h6. It's incredibly dangerous. You totally can't do this kind of things, because this guy will then be attacked by the rook and by the queen as soon as this bishop plays all sorts of attacking ideas. So I hope it's obvious, guys, that you must not take this kind of poison pawns. That you don't take them. You don't open lines and verticals and horizontals for your opponents. So g6 to just shut it off and block the whole damn thing on the king's side so that white can't succeed, obviously. Now, takes on c5, bishop takes, queen takes. So I'm going to just move a bit quicker because it might take way too long. Rook over to h4. Very natural stuff. As long as you're hitting your own pawn, you're not going to achieve anything. Therefore, rook must be relaunched and readjusted. Perhaps, getting the rook on the queen side might be proving more useful than just keep it behind your own pawn. So that's another strategical idea. Castles now, because this pawn blocks white into attacking. So it's the safest square. Now it's safe for the black king to be encastled. Bishop takes. Rook now aligns itself with the queen, so you just need to give a little bit of thought there. You already took a piece, so not a problem if black wants to trade. Not a problem. You take, bishop takes, rook takes, and you keep playing it. But he doesn't want to trade. He actually checks the king and reveals the rook vertical, attacking the white queen. There is only one correct move here, and that would be queen e2 to play, which obviously Magnus played it. Queen now took the piece, and the game looks like is getting balanced, but actually white is going to win. Simply one extra pawn, and this guy is going to be a monster of a pawn, and it will constantly stop the black king from moving to the 7th rank. You're going to see it, guys. So queen to a2 attacking rook. Rook moves away. The other rook is being attacked. Maintaining rook on the b file. You want to actually start to trade here and simplify, because you need to take advantage of the extra pawn. And now if you watch it, we already got the rook menacing, plaguing the 7th rank. You've got the knight attacking here twice, so this is incredibly painful. And the king can't move on the 7 because it's the pawn on h6, and the black rook can't really do too much. You got to be very careful, because if you do all sorts of crazy stuff and you forget to put the rook back on the 8th rank, I'm afraid we got a checkmate. So it's very painful, and now it looks like white is going to win. That's exactly what happened. Magnus, rook to d4. Rook. Okay, so we're just going to play a couple of more moves here. Check, and let's just get very quickly to the end of it. Beautiful game played here 2 days ago in the Chess Masters chess store, won by Magnus Carlsen. Knight to c4 checks and attacking on e5. Rook had to go back, so you can't really take this pawn because we've got a check on b8, and that's pretty much done. That's it. So rook had to coming down. The other rook took, and look at this extra pawn down. Magnus took it, if you want to put it like at the very beginning of the game, almost. This guy means trouble. So black is facing now quite a few threats, so you can't hold them all. We've got the perennial checkmate threat, so the rook has to stay on the 8th rank, and we've got the menacing pawn, which is a free passing pawn, which wants to promote. So you can't really, and an incredibly versatile knight. So you can't face too many threats here. You just can't. You can't do this. And let me see, when did they? Oh, they haven't resigned yet. Now Magnus takes on f7. The other rook tries to play something and perhaps give a couple of checks, but it's not going to be very successful. Check again. Now very nicely, king attacking both pieces simultaneously. One extra tempo being won here, and that is just too much for black to take, and he just resigned here. You can't really stop the checkmate. Checkmate is coming here. It's just painful. You gotta stop. You have to start giving away pieces to stay in the game. You can't do this. Not when you're facing number 1 on the planet, namely Magnus Carlsen. We all know that. Brilliant game played by Magnus and Hikaru Nakamura, guys, 2 days ago. So I hope I'll be uploading the film in the next half an hour or so. And we'll be back, my chess friends, with more chess analysis, more games, openings. We'll be discussing chess ideas. Drop some comments and tell me if you would like to see another super game to being analyzed here together, or perhaps follow me on Twitch when I'm going live and we can discuss more things live. Again, thank you very much, boys and girls, and I shall see you shortly.